Welcome to IslamicDonut.com.
It's really wonderful to be here. And, just looking at the calendar, you can feel it. We're right on the edge of something really special, aren't we?
We really are. We are staring right down the barrel of Ramadan 2026.
2026.
Or, for those of us who live our spiritual lives by the moon, that's 1446 AH. It is approaching so fast.
It feels like it creeps up every year.
It does. And, every single year around this time, I'm talking late January, early February, the entire atmosphere it shifts. It's almost palpable.
It really is.
You feel it in the grocery stores. You can feel it in the mosques. You definitely feel it in the family group chats. It's this very specific kind of electricity in the air.
It's a very distinct frequency. I was just reading through the source material we're looking at today, this guide from Islamic Donate Charity, and they nail the description.
As they do.
Yeah, they talk about this distinct atmosphere, and it's not just one single emotion. It's this complex, really potent cocktail of spiritual excitement, that anticipation for Tarawih prayers, the community breaking bread together, the late nights.
All the good stuff.
All the good stuff. But it's mixed with, and let's be totally honest here, a very quiet, very real physical preparation.
Preparation is such a polite way of putting it. I might call it a low-grade panic.
Well, maybe a little bit of panic. But yes, there's that undercurrent of anxiety, right? You're so excited for your soul. You want that connection. You want that spiritual reset. But your body is kind of whispering in your ear.
It's screaming into mine.
It's saying, hey, remember last year? Remember that caffeine withdrawal headache? Remember that 2:00 p.m. fog where you just stared at a spreadsheet for 45 minutes and accomplished absolutely nothing?
No, I remember it vividly. The midday crash is so real. And the thirst. I think for a lot of our listeners, and we like to call you the learners because you're always looking to optimize, the fear isn't just about hunger pangs.
No, it's bigger than that.
It's about functioning. It's how do I show up to my high-pressure job? How do I look after my kids who have endless energy? How do I actually focus in my prayer if my brain feels like it's completely wrapped in cotton wool?
Precisely. And that right there, that is the universal challenge. It really doesn't matter if you're in London, New York, Dubai, or Jakarta. The physiology of the human body has its limits. We are, at the end of the day, biological machines.
Right.
And when you start pushing those limits, especially if we're talking about, say, 14 or 15 hours of fasting, you are going to run into some biological walls. You're going to hit the wall of dehydration. You're going to hit the wall of hypoglycemia.
So the mission of our discussion today is really to tear down those walls, or maybe at least show you how to build a door right through them. We're taking a really comprehensive look at this source, Professional Plan for Ramadan Suhoor, What to Eat, which was produced by Islamic Donate Charity.
And I really want to emphasize that word professional. It's quite an interesting choice of words for a religious charity to use, isn't it? But you know what? It fits.
It does fit.
Because they're not just giving you spiritual platitudes. They're not just saying, have faith and you'll get through it. They're giving you a blueprint. The goal here is to really analyze a strategy that blends Islamic tradition, which has, 1,400 years of accumulated wisdom with modern nutritional science.
That's the sweet spot, isn't it? When faith meets physiology.
That is exactly the sweet spot. The promise of this guide is to move all of us beyond what I call survival mode.
Oh, I know survival mode well.
I think way too many people treat Ramadan as just a survival exercise. It's, if I can just make it to Maghrib without fainting, then I've won.
Right. Check the box. I did it.
But this guide argues, no, you can thrive. You can actually create a powerful, energetic state where your worship is better because your body isn't screaming at you the whole time.
We are going to tease out some serious aha moments today. I mean, things that completely flipped my perspective when I was reading the brief. Like, for instance, why drinking 3 liters of water right before dawn, the classic camel strategy, is actually a huge, huge mistake.
A very common one, but a huge mistake nonetheless.
We're also going to talk about why a salty suhoor is a trap that will absolutely ruin your day by 10:00 a.m. And in a really fascinating twist that I honestly did not see coming, we're going to touch on how cryptocurrency fits into the modern landscape of charity.
It's a fascinating connection they make. So yeah, we've got a lot to cover.
Okay, so let's unpack all of this. I want to start with the engine. I always view the body as an engine. And if you put low-grade fuel in a Ferrari, it's going to sputter and stall.
That's a great analogy.
And during Ramadan, we're asking our engines to run a 24-hour Le Mans race every single day for 30 days straight.
It's a very apt analogy, and my role here, I guess, is to look at the mechanics of that engine. So think of this as a physiological puzzle. We have a specific set of constraints. We have a time window from sunset to dawn where we can take in fuel and hydration.
Refueling window.
The refueling window. And then we have a performance window from dawn to sunset where we have to maintain stability. So the puzzle is, how do we stabilize blood sugar and hydration across 12 to 14 hours? Or, and God bless them for the people in the polar regions, how do you do it for 18 hours?
It sounds almost impossible when you frame it like that.
It's not impossible, but it definitely requires a strategy. And that strategy begins with section 1 of our source, the physiology of the pre-dawn meal, or as we know it, suhoor.
Reframing suhoor. I love this concept because, let's be honest, for a lot of us, suhoor is just, it's a deadline. It's the snooze button meal.
The snooze button meal. I like that.
You wake up, you're groggy, you look at the clock and see you've got 15 minutes, and you shove whatever is closest and easiest into your mouth before the clock runs out.
That is what the source calls the deadline mentality. And it is so destructive to the goal of the fast. The source asks us to completely reframe this. First, we have to look at the spiritual angle. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, described suhoor specifically as a blessing.
A blessing. Not a chore, not a rule. A blessing. That's a strong word.
It's a very strong word. He didn't say it's a requirement or just a rule. He called it a blessing. It's something that distinguishes the fast of a Muslim. But if we connect that spiritual idea to the physical angle, that blessing manifests as stamina. The baraka, or blessing, in that meal is the fuel that provides the physical endurance you need for your spiritual endurance. You simply cannot separate the two.
So what happens if you skip it? And I know a lot of people who do, they say, you know what, I'd rather just have that extra 75 minutes of sleep. What is actually happening to the body in that scenario?
When you skip suhoor, you are forcing your body into a crisis state before the day has even properly begun. Let's look at the metabolic impact because the source analyzes this very clearly. When you skip that meal, the body triggers a stress response.
A stress response?
Yeah.
We mean like cortisol, adrenaline.
Exactly. Cortisol, adrenaline. The body realizes, okay, the sun is up, I'm awake, but there is no new energy coming in. So what does it do? It immediately goes into conservation mode. Your metabolism effectively slows right down. It starts to hoard whatever energy it has.
And what does that feel like for the person experiencing it?
It feels like hitting a wall. Complete lethargy, that brain fog we mentioned, irritability. You know that feeling when you can't remember a simple word or you snap at a coworker for absolutely no reason?
Oh yeah, the hangry phenomenon.
That is your brain rationing its glucose supply. So skipping is definitely bad. But, and this is the big but, eating the wrong thing can be almost as bad, and the source calls this the sugar trap.
Oh, I have fallen into this trap so many times. It's the bowl of sugary cereal. It's the white toast with strawberry jam. It's the leftover dessert from the night before. It tastes so good at 4 a.m.
It absolutely does. It triggers the reward centers of the brain, so yes, it feels good, but only briefly. Let's look at the mechanism behind it. When you consume simple sugars, we're talking white bread, sugary cereals, donuts, pastries, you are dumping pure, unadulterated glucose straight into your bloodstream.
It's like pouring rocket fuel into the engine.
Yes, and your blood sugar spikes vertically, it just shoots straight up. Your pancreas then responds by flooding your system with insulin to manage that huge spike. Insulin's job is to clear all that sugar from the blood and push it into your cells for energy, but because the spike was so unnaturally high, the insulin response is incredibly aggressive.
And what goes up?
Must come down, and it comes down rapidly. You crash, usually within 2 to 3 hours. So let's say you eat that sugary suhoor at 4:30 a.m. By 8:00 a.m., right when you're starting your commute or heading into your first meeting, your blood sugar is actually lower than if you had eaten nothing at all. This is a real condition called reactive hypoglycemia.
That is terrifying. You're literally setting yourself up to fail from the very beginning.
The result is that you feel hungry. Not just hungry, but ravenously hungry within hours. And you still have 10, maybe 12 hours left to go in your fast. The solution, which the source emphasizes again and again, is shifting your focus to what they call slow-burning fuels. We need foods that don't cause a spike. We need foods that just trickle energy into the system.
Like a slow drip IV of energy.
That's a perfect way to put it. A slow, steady release of energy that keeps you alert for your daily duties. And as the source points out, for your charitable efforts as well. It's very hard to be generous and patient when your blood sugar is crashing through the floor.
That is so true. It's hard to be a good person when you're that hungry. Okay, so We know we need this slow-burning fuel, but before we get to the specific foods, we have to talk about the other half of this equation. And for many people, it's probably the harder half. Let's move to section 2, the hydration strategy.
The thirst challenge.
And the source acknowledges this right up front. Thirst is often the hardest part of fasting. You can kind of ignore a rumbling stomach after a while, but a dry mouth, a parched throat, that psychological feeling of just needing water, it's intense, especially if you're in a tropical zone or you're doing one of those long summer fasts in the northern hemisphere.
And this leads us to what is probably the single biggest myth in all of Ramadan nutrition.
I think I know you're going to say it's the water loading myth, isn't it?
Drinking 3 liters of water in the 5 minutes before the Adhan, we see it every single year. People standing in their kitchen at 4:55 a.m. just chugging bottle after bottle of water.
I feel personally attacked right now. I have definitely done this. The logic seems so sound. If I drink it all now, I'll be fine until at least noon.
It seems sound, but physiologically it completely fails. The source explains why very clearly. Your body cannot absorb that volume of water instantly. Your kidneys function on a specific filtration rate. If you overwhelm them with sheer volume like that, they simply signal the body to flush it all out. It's a process called diuresis.
So you're basically just renting the water for a little while.
You're renting it for about 45 minutes until you make your first of many trips to the bathroom. And then it's gone. You haven't actually hydrated your cells, you've just rinsed out your kidneys. And now on top of that, you're bloated, you can't get back to sleep comfortably, and you're still going to be thirsty again by 9 a.m.
Okay, so what is the alternative? The source introduces a concept that I really, really like. Eating your water.
This is the concept of cellular hydration. It's a game changer. It's not just about having water in your stomach, it's about getting water inside your cells where it actually counts.
Yeah.
And for water to stay inside a cell, it needs an anchor. It needs something to hold on to.
And those anchors are the electrolytes.
Correct. Specifically, potassium, magnesium, and sodium. These minerals create something called osmotic pressure. Think of them like little magnets inside your cells that attract and hold on to the water molecules. Without them, water just passes right through your system. The source highlights potassium as the absolute hero of Suhoor hydration.
Okay, let's talk about these key potassium sources that the guide recommends, because I think people often assume they need to be drinking those neon-colored sports drinks, which are often just packed with sugar. But the source points to whole foods.
Absolutely. And first on their list is the avocado.
I love avocados, a modern-day superfood.
The source describes them as a nutritional goldmine. And it's true. We all know them for their healthy fats, but they are incredibly high in potassium. Actually higher than bananas, gram for gram. So if you have avocado at Suhoor, you are effectively banking your hydration. You're putting water into a savings account rather than just spending it all at once.
I like that. The next one is coconut water.
Nature's electrolyte drink. The chemical composition of pure coconut water, specifically its balance of potassium and sodium, is remarkably similar to human blood plasma. This means it hydrates significantly better than plain water alone because it gets into your bloodstream faster and, more importantly, it stays there longer.
And the third one they list is yogurt.
Yogurt provides calcium, which is great, but it also has a very high water content. It's mostly fluid, and it contains beneficial probiotics for your gut. But the potassium and magnesium levels in dairy are excellent for hydration, so it's really a triple threat.
Now, if those are the hydration heroes, we have to talk about the villain of the story, the sodium warning.
The salty suhoor. This is a huge cultural habit for many of us. We love savory breakfasts. We're talking pickles, olives, salty cheeses like feta or halloumi, processed meats, and the big one, instant noodles.
That makes sense, right? At that time in the morning, you want something with a lot of flavor. You want something tasty.
You do, but biologically, it is an absolute disaster for fasting. The mechanism is actually quite simple. These foods act like sponges. Salt is hygroscopic, which is a fancy way of saying it attracts water. So if you fill your stomach with salt, your body has to pull water out of your cells and into your digestive tract just to dilute that salt to a safe level.
Oh, wow. So you are actively dehydrating your own body's cells just to handle the food you just ate.
That is exactly what's happening. You are triggering intense thirst early in the day because your body is screaming for fluid to balance out all that sodium you just consumed.
So that pickle or that salty cheese at 4:30 a.m. is the direct reason you feel like you're dying of thirst at 10:00 a.m.
Precisely. It can potentially ruin the fast before it's even really begun.
Okay, that is a massive aha moment right there. Step away from the pickles. Let's move into section 3 then. The nutritional framework. This is the what to eat. The source breaks this down into 3 very clear pillars.
And I really appreciate the structure here. It's not a rigid prescriptive menu, it's a framework. This means you can plug in different foods depending on where you live or what your personal preferences are, as long as they fit the pillars.
Okay, so pillar number 1, complex carbohydrates. This is the foundation.
We touched on this a bit when we talked about the sugar trap. We want the complete opposite of sugar. We want low glycemic index or low GI foods. These are basically long chains of glucose molecules that the enzymes in your stomach have to work really hard to break down.
And work hard means it takes a lot of time.
Exactly. Takes time means sustained energy. The examples the guide gives are the classics. First up, oats.
And the guide mentions that oats actually expand in the stomach. What does that mean?
They do. Oats contain a special kind of soluble fiber called beta-glucan. When that fiber mixes with the liquid in your stomach, it forms a thick gel. This provides what's called mechanical satiety. Your stomach literally feels physically full, and that gel also slows down the absorption of sugar into your blood. It's like putting a governor on an engine to keep it from revving too high.
Quinoa is another one they mention.
Quinoa is fascinating. It's technically a seed that acts like a grain. What's special about it is that it's a complete protein, meaning it has all 9 essential amino acids plus all those complex carbs. It's a true endurance food. Ancient civilizations used it for long treks for a very good reason.
And finally, whole grain bread. But the source is very specific here. It says, seeded, dense loaves versus white flour.
I call this the squeeze test. If you can take a slice of bread and squeeze it into a tiny little ball the size of a marble, it's basically just sugar. You want bread that fights back, bread with seeds, with husk, with some real density to it.
Okay, on to pillar number 2. Protein, the sustainer.
Protein is the master appetite suppressant. It interacts directly with a hormone called ghrelin. Ghrelin is the hunger gremlin.
The hunger gremlin, I like that.
It's produced in your stomach, and it travels up to your brain to basically scream, "Feed me." Protein is incredibly effective at suppressing ghrelin levels for a much longer period than carbs or fats do.
The examples here are things like eggs specifically boiled or poached.
And notice they say boiled or poached, not fried in a ton of generic oil. We want to avoid the thirst that comes from excess grease.
Good point. Next is Greek yogurt.
And specifically Greek or strained yogurt. Because most of the liquid whey is strained out, the protein concentration is almost double that of regular yogurt. It's a protein powerhouse.
And finally, beans and lentils.
That's the ultimate slow digesting combo. You get the fiber plus the protein. It's fantastic.
Okay, and that brings us to pillar number 3. Healthy fats, the satiety factor.
Fat plays a very unique role in all of this. It's responsible for delaying what's called gastric emptying. Basically, it tells the little valve at the bottom of your stomach, the pyloric valve, to stay closed for a little bit longer. It slows down the entire digestive train, keeping you feeling full.
And the examples they give are nuts and seeds like walnuts, almonds, chia, olive oil, and nut butters.
A slice of that dense whole wheat bread with some peanut butter or almond butter on it. It's dense, it's fatty in a good way, and it really sticks with you for hours.
The source actually gives some specific menu examples, which I think is really helpful. I want to visualize these for the listener because sometimes all this science is hard to translate to an actual plate. First up, they have something called the power bowl.
This is for the person who wants maximum efficiency in one bowl. You start with a base of cooked oatmeal or quinoa. Then you add chia seeds. The source notes that chia seeds can absorb 10 to 12 times their weight in water. They're like little tiny hydration reservoirs in your stomach.
Then you add bananas or dates for that crucial potassium we talked about, walnuts for omega-3s and brain health, and a big dollop of Greek yogurt for the protein.
It's a complete meal. Every single nutritional need for the fast is met in that one bowl. You've got hydration, electrolytes, slow carbs, protein, and healthy fats. It's perfect.
And for the people who prefer something savory, they have the savory option.
This one sounds delicious. 2 poached eggs on a slice of that dense whole grain toast, half an avocado on the side, and a glass of water with a fresh squeeze of lemon.
Why the lemon in the water? Is that important?
It helps to alkalize the body, but on a more practical level, it just encourages you to drink the water. It cuts through the richness of the egg and avocado. It cleanses the palate and makes for a very sophisticated and incredibly sustaining meal.
I am actually getting hungry just talking about this, but yeah, and this is a big, I know there are listeners out there thinking, avocados, quinoa, chia seeds. This sounds like a grocery bill that I just can't afford right now. Inflation is real, food prices are up.
And that is a completely valid and important concern. We have to be realistic about this. But this is where Section 4 of the source, titled Accessibility and Budget-Friendly Nutrition, really shines, in my opinion.
Democratizing health. I really like that phrase.
They directly address this misconception that healthy fasting is only for the wealthy.
Yeah.
That you need these exotic superfoods imported from the Amazon rainforest to fast correctly.
Right, the goji berries and the manuka honey and all that stuff.
The source asserts something very powerful. Nutrition is a right, not a luxury. And scientifically speaking, some of the most basic, cheap, and traditional foods are actually the most nutritionally dense. Simplicity often brings the best results and the most digestive ease.
Okay, so let's analyze the economical Suhoor plan they provide. These are low-cost, high-value combinations.
Number 1 on their list, the legume powerhouse. We're talking about lentils, dal, or fava beans, full.
These are huge staples in places like Egypt, Pakistan, India, the Middle East.
Pretty much everywhere. A big bag of dry lentils is incredibly cheap and will last you for weeks. When you cook them and you pair them with a piece of whole wheat bread or a roti, you create a complete protein. It literally rivals a piece of steak in terms of its amino acid profile, but it costs pennies per serving.
Wow. Okay, number 2, the humble egg and potato.
Potatoes are so misunderstood. We deep fry them, cover them in salt, and then call them unhealthy. But a simple boiled potato with the skin still on, it is one of the highest sources of potassium in the entire plant kingdom. It's a nutritional powerhouse.
So the combo they suggest is mashed, hard-boiled eggs mixed with boiled potato.
Seasoned with just a little bit of salt and pepper, the egg gives you that protein spike and satiety. The potato provides the slow-release energy for the long haul. It is filling, it is comforting, and it is very, very affordable.
Number 3, nature's hydration on a budget. So if you can't afford coconut water or it's not available,
cucumber. A cucumber is 95% water. It is one of the cheapest vegetables you can buy per kilo. They recommend eating half a cucumber with every suhoor. It's like eating a glass of water that releases slowly throughout the day because the water is trapped in the vegetable's fiber matrix.
And what's the budget-friendly replacement for avocados?
Bananas. They will prevent muscle cramps just as well because of their potassium content. They are the undisputed, budget-friendly potassium king.
And lastly, good old traditional oats.
Just bulk oats. Buy the big bag of plain oats. Cook them with water or milk. If expensive honey is out of your budget, use some raisins or a few slices of fresh fruit for natural sweetness. It's a perfect, slow-release energy capsule that costs almost nothing per serving.
It really does prove that you don't need a high budget to have high energy. You just need to be smart about your choices.
No, you just need knowledge, and that's exactly what this guide provides.
Now, speaking of money and resources, this leads us into the final section, Section 5, Modern Generosity and Cryptocurrency.
This seems like a big pivot in the discussion, but it follows the logic of the source perfectly. We're moving from feeding ourselves, from optimizing the engine, to thinking about others.
They call it connecting nutrition to empathy.
And the source makes this profound psychological link. It suggests that when you feel that hunger pang, specifically that 4:00 p.m. crash we talked about, it shouldn't just be an annoyance to you, it should be a trigger.
A trigger for what exactly?
A trigger for empathy. A reminder of the fragility of the human condition. For you, the hunger will end at Maghrib. You know with certainty that there is food waiting for you. But for millions of people around the world, that hunger is chronic. It doesn't end. That pang connects you directly to those who have no suhoor at all.
An Islamic Donate charity uses this as a springboard to talk about the evolution of giving. They've really embraced technology. Specifically, they offer cryptocurrency donate options.
Now, maybe 10 years ago, this might have sounded very strange. Crypto for charity. But here in 2026, it makes perfect sense. The source outlines exactly why crypto, and their reasoning is very compelling.
Speed is the first factor they mention.
Traditional banking is slow. It just is. If there's a crisis, an earthquake, a sudden famine waiting 3 to 5 business days for an international wire transfer to clear is just too long. People can die in that time. Crypto transactions are near instantaneous.
Efficiency is the second point.
Fees, intermediaries, banks. If I send $100 through traditional channels to a remote area, after all the fees, maybe $94 actually arrives. With crypto, you can avoid many of those high banking fees. The source says this ensures 100% of the intention translates to food, water, and shelter.
And transparency. This is a huge one for building trust in the charity sector.
The blockchain. It's a public, immutable ledger. Donors can, in theory, see exactly where the funds are going. It removes a lot of the opacity that sometimes plagues the world of charity. It helps build trust because the math doesn't lie.
There's also a really critical point they make about global reach.
This is perhaps the most crucial point, especially for conflict zones or disaster areas. In places where the banking infrastructure has completely collapsed, where there are no working banks due to war or natural disaster, how do you get aid money in? You can't wire money to a bank that doesn't exist anymore.
But digital wallets.
Digital wallets are accessible anywhere there is a data connection, even a weak one. It allows wealth to be transferred instantly across borders into the most desperate areas on Earth, completely bypassing failed traditional systems.
So accepting things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other digital assets is really just about removing barriers to giving.
Exactly. It's about removing friction from the act of doing good. It's about modernizing the mechanism of zakat and sadaqah for the 21st century.
It's really amazing to think about. We start our conversation with the molecular structure of an oat flake, and we end with the global blockchain ledger. But you're right, it is all connected.
It's all connected by the intention of the month.
So let's try to synthesize all of this. We're approaching the outro now. What is the big overarching takeaway here for the listener?
I think the synthesis is a holistic view of Ramadan. It's a rhythm. It's a total system reboot for your body and your soul. We wake up when the rest of the world is sleeping. We eat with a specific intention, not for gluttony, but for fuel. And we abstain to purify the soul.
And the physical preparation, the avocados, the oats, the water strategy, that isn't separate from the worship itself.
Not at all. You are respecting the vessel. Your body is the vessel that allows you to stand in prayer, to help your neighbor, to go to work, to be a good parent. By optimizing the vessel, you are honoring the worship. You make the fast physically easier so that you can challenge yourself spiritually.
I want to leave the listener with a final provocative thought, if I may. We've talked a lot about biology today.
Yeah.
But let's go back to that hunger pang for a second.
Go on.
What if we treated that hunger not as a signal to eat, but as a signal to give? What if every single time your stomach growled this Ramadan, your first reflex wasn't, ugh, when is iftar? But instead, who can I help right now?
That is a beautiful reframing of the experience. We eat together, we pray together, and we give together. If we let our own hunger trigger our generosity, we transform a biological struggle into a social benefit. That is a truly powerful way to approach this month.
It really is. Listen, we have unpacked a ton of information today, from the dangers of salty cheese all the way to the benefits of Ethereum and charity work.
It has been a really thorough discussion.
If you want to see the full professional plan for Ramadan Suhoor for yourself, or if you're feeling inspired and want to use those crypto tools to help someone in need, you know where to go.
The source has all the details you'll need.
Visit www.islamicdonut.com.
May your fast be easy and your energy be high this year.
Thank you so much for listening.